Good. We've had a really good, probably last 2 weeks of practice been pretty good. You can just tell, especially with older guys, they're finally, they can smell and tell that season is upon us. So there's been some pretty heightened practices and workouts, so that's been good.
Your best case scenario, what happens with this team this year with so many new players?
I think each year, I think for most coaches, best case is just you see continual improvement. I think that's the biggest thing. I think, you know, early on with new personnel, and I'm still trying to figure these guys out. I know they're still trying to figure pieces out. Getting Femi back. I mean, he hasn't played in a game yet, so you're trying to figure out how that looks and get him comfortable. And so I think it's just that continual growth. We always talk about that. Like, can we get a little bit better? Are we better in November than we were in October? Are we going to be better in December than November? And I think if we could just kind of keep that mindset, I think the end of the day, it kind of figures itself out towards the end of the year. But you got to constantly get better. You got to constantly press, individually and as a team.
How long does it take for you to figure out what you got?
Oh, wow. If you guys remember last year, like, for instance, like Elijah, early on, I mean, I benched him. Like, he wasn't finishing games. And then something just happened, like, mid-December, and the light switch went on. But early, I mean, even with Mike, he was trying to figure out, all right, where do I fit in? We had the young guys trying to figure out, all right, did I take a step from my freshman year? So I think this year will be maybe a little bit different because they're older, so hopefully it happened a little bit quicker. But for me, I'm still, again, trying to figure out, all right, like, what guys mesh well, what can I count on from this player or that player. So hopefully, we'll find out something here in the month of November. But I'm pretty sure it'll be somewhere in December at some point.
Femi's an older guy that was starting for you in exhibitions, and then he had the shoulder. I mean, how's he feeling? How much would he factor in, once he starts really get going for you guys?
Yeah, no, I like Femi. He just brings a different piece for us. Versatile, can really defend. You guys will see, he's got like a really good pace to his game. Never gets sped up. Really sees the floor. In New Mexico State, he played the 1 through the 4. He can defend the 1 through the 4. But he's got like a calming presence to him. But he just finds ways to get guys shots. And his teams, when we line up and go maroon and go, they always seem to win more times than not. And so it'll be good to get him into the flow with the other guys. It would be good to get Lukai another game under his belt, to get Isaac another game under his belt. Hopefully find some minutes for KB to get him some more reps and minutes under his belt. All that was said, still want to win. So.
How about Frank? I know it looked pretty bad, and then he came back on the bench and he was sitting with the guys.
Yeah, it'll probably be week to week. Thankfully there won't be. I mean, as of right now, there's no surgery. And so now it's, just seeing how much strength he can get back in the shoulder. So we'll see where he's at next week. He'll be out for Wednesday. But again, it's an opportunity. So now it's like you're able to slide KB over a little bit and get him some extended run, hopefully. And again, some of these other guys, the good part in the non-conference, with size is sometimes it's hard when you play two bigs, because some of these teams will be small and they'll go small ball to try to match it. And so, thankfully, if we're going to have injuries, that have it early, where now you can go small and you can give other guys looks.
Was it a separated shoulder?
Yeah, dislocated. Yeah. But the good part is, I mean, you would have never known. And so I think it could be realistic for next week. So we'll see how it feels.
And Femi is available?
Yeah, Femi's available. He's full go. Yeah, right now everybody else is full go.
Who's going to become your Nas Reed? The guy who
Yeah.
plays so hard the fans get to love Mayor Williams.
I hope we got a couple of them. Get some Nas Reed tattoos going. That's a good question. I've been kind of begging guys. I want somebody to be an alpha. That's what I've been preaching. Like, we need somebody on this team to be an alpha. And we showed a clip of Garnett on an interview. I'm sorry, it was Brian Scalabrine on an interview talking about KG when he was with the Celtics, how, when he would enter a room, the temperature went up. And so we need to find a guy when he enters the room, whether it's film, weights, practice, a game, the temperature rises, and there's that alpha presence. And so that's we're waiting for somebody to step up to that. I think there's a couple guys that have the opportunity to do it, but it's still early, but we need somebody to kind of claim that.
Is this a common occurrence where you have Dawson and Mike getting early shots?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been so impressive since, really Mike and Dawson have been like this all the time. But I would say, we had unbelievable workouts in the spring in terms of guys just putting in extra. They've always done a lot, but I'm talking about extra to the point where I was telling guys you have to get out the gym, you have to rest. The summer it carried over, and then the good part is when those two guys are doing it as returners, the new guys, they don't know any better, so they come in, they just figure out, this is what we do. And so it's been, it's kind of been really competitive in terms of guys knowing other guys are in the gym, and it's that good peer pressure. And that's what you win. I think culturally we're finally at a stage now where that's just the norm. It's just like what we do, and you got to put the work in, and you got to get better. And now with depth, it's like, all right, if you're not going to do it, somebody else is going to. So you got a little bit of that kind of heightened pressure behind you. But it definitely starts with these two guys. I mean, they're in there nonstop.
Looking across the Big Ten, and there's a lot of freshmen that were doing big things because they have a lot of opportunity. I think this team is one where Isaac is probably going to have to just find where he fits in, but he's got a lot of really good seniors to learn from. And, how's he handling, exhibition-wise, you wouldn't know that he was a freshman, some things he was doing, but.
Right. No, I think both him and Grayson, I mean, I love where they're at right now. I think both of them, are going to be really big parts of our program for sure. Probably, physically, ahead of where I thought they would be. So that's put them in position to be able to play in some of these games. But I think just across the board, it's so hard to find young guys minutes, especially when you're older and you have depth. It just really is. And you could have a really good player that's playing spot minutes, and it's just hard. I was watching, I think it was UCLA last night, and they got a McDonald's All-American as a freshman. And it's just hard to find the minutes when you have older guys that don't make mistakes. They might not be guys that get you, whatever, the gaudy stats, but if they're in there making winning plays and don't make mistakes, it's like, how do you take that guy out? Because there's a level of trust just because he's got 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 years under his belt. And so, I just told those guys, just keep working, because it's not always what you're not doing. Sometimes it's what other guys are doing. And when you're finally at a place where you've got some veterans, it is harder to, find minutes for you. So, hopefully they continue to just keep that right mindset, which I think they will. But they got a really, really bright future.
Of the younger guys who are returning, who's really impressed you and how they've progressed since last season?
They've all taken steps. Probably KB the most, just because, when he came here and redshirted, physically, his body and just being a younger guy and being patient and just getting better in all facets of his game. And now he's able to play the 3 and the 4. He's able to mentally handle the 3 and the 4, 2 positions. He's starting to be able to guard more on the perimeter. And I just think, what he does, he brings a different kind of physicality to this team. I think he's our best guy in the open floor in transition as far as just running the floor, and he can finish at the rim because he's got legit size. But just his 6'8", 2 whatever he is, the presence, defensively, and the toughness, and again, be able to play downhill and play in the post. I want to continue to get more out of him.
You've brought in a lot of older guys. Is getting more veteran leadership, is that a focus for you in the portal? Or is that just sort of a function of who was available?
Yeah, no, it was. I think there's 2 ways you go about it, right? When you lose production or you lose talent, it's like, all right, you can either afford to pay for high-end replacements, or to me the next best thing that wins is you got to find experience in guys that have a number of games under their belt and are older. And so, that was definitely a point of emphasis, and guys that, this is their last run. And so there's no really distractions about, whatever that could be. I mean, their focus is winning now because they got 5, 6, 7 months left. And so, yeah, I think, getting experience really helps. Helps on the road. It helps at home. Those guys don't get rattled. Physically, you see them playing better because they can play for longer stretches because they're physically able to do it. It's just the mental piece. They're just a little bit more mature.
With Dawson, you had limited exhibition, but I mean, if you project it out, like, do you see him production-wise taking another step, or is it, not necessarily that? It's just like you said, some of the little things that.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think obviously the level of competition isn't, Big Ten or what we're going to face, but I think for his minutes played, the production he had and his percentage and what he was able to get done was pretty indicative of how he's practiced. I think obviously now there's no minutes restrictions. I mean, we're going to play him, extended minutes. So, for him, it's just about staying in your lane, so to speak, and just continue to do what you do. Like, don't change what you did in the 2 exhibition games. Don't change what you've done in practice. And when he does that, I think he's really productive.
How do you look at Oral Roberts?
They've got McBride, who I think he's a high major player. We told our guys he started off at Vanderbilt. He's a high major guard, preseason conference player of the year. Anytime you've got the conference player of the year, your team's gonna have a chance, period. But he's dynamic, can score on all 3 levels. You look at his usage last year. I mean, he was one of the most utilized guards in the country. Played one of the most minutes in the country. I think Robinson at the off guard spot, JUCO player, is very good, very talented. Those guys kind of got a 1-2 punch. The hardest part too, though, is we were kind of going in blind because they had 2 scrimmages that were the secret scrimmage. So we don't have. You're relying on last year and hoping that it's somewhat what they're going to do. But you figure when you got a guy like McBride back, they're not going to change too much from what they ran to get him the ball. But you got to rely on your principles defensively because, again, with no film, these first 4 to 5 games are tough because you're guessing a little bit. So then maturity comes into play. What are our principles? What are our rules? But teams schedule this game because they think they got a chance to win. I think we got to look at it that way. That they're coming in here with a chance to compete and try to beat a Big Ten team at home and put their season on the mark. And we've got to make sure we have kind of that urgency to prevent that. And we've got to set the tone for sure on Wednesday.
With Cochran all the way on your sideline, who's your best perimeter defender?
I would probably say Femi and Mike in his own way. Femi, because of his size and strength and versatility. Mike's taken a step he's just kind of that pesky defender, competitive defender, got a little bit of edge to him defensively now. So I'd probably say those 2 guys, and then Dawson, which is his ability to make rotations. I think he's got to be the anchor defensively for us. He's a switchable. He's a much better communicator this year. He sees it. He's proactive in making calls. I think he's got to be a guy in that back line that can be the defensive anchor and really help solidify stuff.
Is it rebound by committee with, Frank could get 15, 20 rebounds in a game?
Yeah, for sure.
Before, so without him out there.
No, we have to be a really good rebounding team. You just look at your first shot defense as an indicator. If you want to be a good defensive team and get your numbers in a range that's conducive to making postseason, and some of that is you got to end possessions, and you got to get rebounds to end possessions, and so that's going to be, whether Frank's in or not, it's got to be by committee, and it's got to be guys selfishly trying to go get it, and then hopefully help us get on the break.
You mentioned that KB's made a lot of progress. Are there other specific guys who've sort of been flying under the radar that you think are primed for a breakout early in the season?
I just think guys have all, in their own way, like I said, we've had a really good summer. I think Mike's just, again, he's more confident, he's more comfortable, which is normal. I think everybody, they want that quick fix. But the reality is, especially like you look at Mike, your first year as a transfer is always going to be up and down because it's all new. The level, the conference, the expectations, the role. Where your second year is probably going to be a little bit better because you know what it is. And the same thing with some of these younger guys. It's like KB's able to be in the position he's in now because he's got 2 years under his belt. Parker, hopefully now, I told him, I said, at some point, you hope the narrative can flip now from like the great, amazing story to like, nah, he's a pretty good player that helps impact winning. And to me, I said, that's your challenge. It's like, can you flip the narrative where they no longer talk about your story of your health, where now the story 100% is like, damn, this dude's impacts and winning. And man, he's a good player. and I think he's on track to do that. So I think across the board, like I said, we've had a really good summer, and again, I want these guys to be greedy and want more.
How big's your rotation going to be?
I'm still trying to figure that out. It's hard, man, because when you have depth, especially early, you want to get, again, even if it's 3 or 4 minutes, you want to get some of those guys down the end of the bench a chance to get in, because you never know when you're going to need them. And so you're trying to balance that with, also you want to give your rotations guys enough minutes to feel comfortable and build confidence and build chemistry. So I could see us early being around 10 for sure, and then trying to figure out where we go from there. But I think 11's really hard in a 40-minute game to give meaningful minutes. I think 10's tough enough, but we'll see. I told our guys some of that's on them too now. You gotta push the needle and either beat somebody out or play well enough where, like, you force my hand. But I think early I want to give everybody as much run as I can to kind of see what we got and see what they got.
That's how the Wolves last night did. Dillingham got on the court. It was like he was a little lost for a while.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't,
It's different, man. Again, it's like if you can buy time, just being out there running up and down for like 3 or 4 minutes to get all that anxiousness out of you and just to get comfortable, so it's not like your first time in maybe a meaningful game or a game down the road, that is like a conference type game where it's heightened even more, so anytime you can steal those minutes, they're invaluable.
Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Thank you guys.